Hello everyone. So today's date is 6th of July 2022 and today we are going to discuss about one-to-many mapping. So one-to-many mapping in Hibernate is done or is made between two entities where one entity can have a relationship with number of instances of second entity, but the second entity cannot have multiple instances or cannot have relationship with multiple instances of first entity. So how it basically means, it's simply a one-to-many mapping. So let's say if in a company there are a number of employees, and one employee can have a different number of accounts there, but at the same time the two accounts cannot be associated, or one account cannot be associated with two employees. So one employee can have different accounts, one to many, but one account cannot have two employees or more than two employees. So this is what a one to many mapping is. So let's see how do we make such type of mappings in Hibernate. So basically there are two ways of making this mapping in Hibernate. The first is using the primary key association, and the second is using the link table between the two entities. So let's understand it through a proper example. We have an entity of employees and we have an entity of accounts. So generally we do create the entity of employee and entity of accounts, and then as we know that employees can have a number of accounts. So in the employee entity we use a mapping one to many and gives the accounts to it. Then we do create the accounts entity, which cannot have the employees entity or employees object in it. Now how we do achieve this mapping using a primary key association. So basically the primary key of employee is made available or is used in the accounts table as a foreign key. So if let's say if one employee have three accounts, and which can have obviously which can have a different account number, then the in the account table the account number, account ID and the employee ID is given. So that employee ID means which is from the employee table. Then three accounts there, and both three of them accounts have a same ID, which can be associated with a single employee in employee table. So this is what a basic primary key association. But in order to use it, we need to use the annotation on the employees entity, or when we use the account in their list of accounts, one to many annotation should be used there. But the problem with this mapping is that if you try to delete one employee from the employee table, then all the accounts of the account table will be automatically deleted. And at the same time, if we try to delete one account from the account table, then employee will not be affected. So it is basically a unidirectional mapping, or a unidirectional way of achieving the mapping. Now what's the next way of creating or making the one-to-one mapping, one-to-many mapping? It is basically using a link between the two table or two entities. It will use to achieve the bidirectional way, and it will not affect both entities, or both entities basically are independent on each other. Now let's say how we should do that. We basically create an extra table or another table which can have only two columns. The first is the primary key of employee and the primary key of accounts. Both the keys act as a foreign key in this table. So table we can form as an employee account table, and in this the employee ID is available and accounts ID is available, and we do create a link between employee and account with this employee account table. Now using this we cannot let's say if one employee is deleted in the employee table, then accounts are there, they could not delete it, they could not be affected by that employee. But at the same time, if accounts are deleted, then employees also do not affect it. So using this one-to-many mapping, we can achieve many advantages in the database processes. Like in any project, it comes a scenario when one-to-many mapping is much required. Let's say we have an organization, and organization can have number of departments. Number of departments can have number of employees. So let's say if there is an HR department, there is a management department, there is a production department. So production department can have hundreds of employees. So if every employee is associated with production department, then instead of giving the whole data of production department to the employee, we are basically repeating that data. So we basically create an employees table, the production department table, and using this separation of between the entities, basically we can achieve the data normalization. We can efficiently manipulate the data, and we can retrieve the data from the database or data server as early or within a fraction of seconds. So this is what basically main advantage of mapping. Mapping does provide us the way to achieve or to manipulate the whole data available in the system in an efficient way. So today this is all about one-to-many mapping. Thank you.